State Representative Alan Seabaugh is on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline. Good morning to you, sir. Congrats.
Thank you very much. Good morning to y'all.
Just heard Scott Hughes talking about the big wins in the legislature for the Republicans. How big was it for you guys?
It was huge, and it wasn't just a Republican wave; it was a conservative wave. I am extremely excited about this upcoming legislature. We not only did we beat several Democrats, and we flipped several seats from Democrat to Republican, but we knocked off some liberal Republicans, and we also had some moderate to liberal Republicans who turned out that we replaced with real conservatives. Have a little bit more work to do. We've got to get rid of Ryan Gaddy and Bozier to finish the deal. But the across the board, we're going to have a 27-12 Republican advantage in the Senate, and only 2 white Democrats left in the Senate. And then you're going to have a 68, 69, probably 69 or 70 to 32, 33 with a couple of independents margin in the House. So we're going to move forward. I mean, look, I was looking at this legislature. I got a text message from a colleague that said, John Bel Edwards might want to rethink re-election. He might not want to come serve with this legislature because
you're going to have a veto-proof legislature, correct?
We will be able to override a veto. Absolutely.
Okay. The Ryan Gaddy, Robert Mills race. We know you obviously have been supporting Mr. Mills. I guess you'd hoped with an outside shot you might win it outright, but that was really never in the cards, correct?
No, we had some polls actually about 2 to 3 weeks out that showed it being a possibility. And when you get to 48, you were in the ballpark. I mean, it was a possibility. It was just a factor of turnout, and then he overperformed in a couple of parishes and underperformed a little bit in Webster Parish. So obviously there's a little work to do there. But it's look, when you're an incumbent and you get 38%, that's a message from your constituents that you have not done a good job. It's not an acceptable position to be in. And across the board, people don't like Ryan's voting record. He likes to go down there and pretend that he's a conservative, and he just isn't. If you look at his voting record, he's just not conservative. And incidentally, you had a guest on earlier that said John Bel Edwards would be a Republican in any other state. That is absolutely untrue. John Bel Edwards is a liberal Democrat in Louisiana, and he would be a liberal Democrat in any state that he goes to. He didn't veto a pro-life bill. That's it. That's the extent of his conservative record. And if he had vetoed that bill, he would have been run out of town on a rail. I'm going to throw this out, too. No incumbent governor has ever gotten less than 50% in the primary and won the election.
Never.
And John Bel Edwards is going down.
Okay, let me ask you this. In the Milkovich race, I personally saw an ad on my phone for Katrina Early that when I click on it, it goes to Louisiana Committee to Elect Conservatives. That to me seemed pretty diabolical, Alan, for the conservatives to buy ads for the Democrat, the most liberal person in that race.
I'm not sure she was more liberal than John, but go ahead.
Okay. Was that just a tactic that they used? And I don't know if you're involved with that political action committee, but that, the political action committee right now is run by Jeff Landry, John Kennedy. That's what their documents say anyway.
Yes, and they won every single race they were involved in statewide, with the exception of the Mills Gaddy. They won outright every race they were involved in except that one, and I think they're ultimately going to win that one. Now, that was some gamesmanship. They were simply trying to say that if Milligan didn't get to 50, that he would maybe be in a runoff with Katrina instead of John. And ultimately, it didn't matter because he got to 51% as it was. But
do you think John will let it go?
Excuse me?
Do you think John Milkovich will let it go, that he won't be calling for a recall?
No, John never lets anything go. He's a walking conspiracy theorist. I mean, John sees everything as a conspiracy. I absolutely think he'll file some kind of challenge, but it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, look, I talked to the Secretary of State before they were expecting John to sue them before the election because he wouldn't let them in. He wanted them to let him alone in the room with the voting machines without supervision, without anybody watching. I mean, come on. John's a walking conspiracy theorist. And look, John tried to portray himself as a conservative. He was an absolute liberal Democrat in every way except he was pro-life. And he was pro-life. There's no question about that. But he voted for tax increases. He voted to let criminals out of jail. His voting record was liberal down the line. And the Milligan campaign did an absolutely fantastic job of letting people know this guy is not what he's trying to portray himself to be. He's a charlatan. He's trying to pretend that he's conservative so that he can get certain votes from certain demographics, and he just didn't fit the bill.
So
your
Alan,
voting record does matter.
So Alan, I want my money back. When y'all get into legislative session in the spring, give me my dang money back.
We tried to give it back last year, and we passed it in the House. The Senate killed it. Looking at the way the Senate is going to be made up next year, I feel fairly confident we can pass that bill, and it's just going to be a question of whether if it's John Bel Edwards, he'll veto it, and then we can have our veto fight. If it's Eddie Rispone, he's going to sign it and smile ear to ear, because we will have brought tax relief to the people of Louisiana probably in the first month of the session. I mean, when you raise taxes by over $400 million and you have a $500 million surplus, it is an absolute rock-solid proof that all of those special sessions were unnecessary. The tax increase was not necessary, and we all knew it. That was a political ploy so he could claim a surplus when he ran for re-election.
Are you going to be our next Speaker of the House?
I wouldn't bet against me at this point. I think we have a very good. The problem that I have, frankly, is that I endorsed Abraham. I was very close with Rispone. I have been over the years, and endorsing Ralph probably hurt. But ultimately, I think yes, I have more commitments than any other candidate at this point. I don't have 53. If I did, it would be over. But I got some work to do. But that's a very good possibility. If we're not, either way, the state of Louisiana is moving forward because it's going to be a rock-solid Republican. John Bel Edwards' choice for Speaker is not going to win. It's going to be a rock-solid conservative, and I believe we're going to have a rock-solid conservative in the Senate, even if John Bel gets reelected. And so we're going to have a positive agenda. And look, the governor's race is what everybody's focusing on. There was an absolute red conservative wave in every other race across the state. Outside of New Orleans, voters threw Democrats and liberals out on their ear, and voters outside of New Orleans did everything they could to throw John Bel out on his ear. So I think we're going to continue that conservative wave into the runoff. And again, no incumbent governor that received less than 50% in the primary has ever been reelected.